All right, welcome everybody. Super excited to have you here. Welcome to another exciting installment of Feature Fest. I can see the chat has already kicked off, so we love seeing where everybody's from, love seeing the GIFs that some people usually drop in there. Just as a reminder, Feature Fest is where we highlight ClickUp's latest and best feature releases. And I know we just had a major feature release this week, so I'm sure everybody's really curious about that one. We won't necessarily be covering that today, but we'll definitely cover that in the follow-up session. So be on the lookout for that. And I've got some news for you that today is actually going to be a bit of a preview. So we've got two really awesome updates that we're going to be sharing with you. We're going to be sharing the ClickUp Dev solution for Agile workflows and Whiteboards 3.0. So just to introduce myself, my name's Elliot. I'm the manager of customer enablement here at ClickUp. And I did have a few housekeeping items that I wanted to get through before we get started. So just wanted to remind you, the session length today, it's 30 minutes. So we've got, not a ton of time, but we have a ton of content to cover. We've also got a chat and a Q&A. So just be aware, the chat, that's where we love seeing all your comments. The GIFs that I see are already being dropped in there. Love seeing where you're from. Feel free to promote your business in there if you want, or drop your LinkedIn. I see people kind of network through there sometimes, which is really cool. And then just be aware that there's also a tab for Q&A. So the chat and the Q&A are separate. Any questions that you have today about Whiteboards or ClickUp Dev, be sure to drop those in the Q&A, because we do have a whole team here available to answer questions live about both of these features. And also wanted to remind you that for the Q&A, we want to stick to questions just about the features that we're covering today. So if you have additional questions about ClickUp or features, definitely hit up the support team, and I'll show you in just a second where you can find a link to that. So that's the third thing I wanted to call out. This session is being recorded, so if you're looking for a recording of the session, we will send that to you after the session. And we've also got links to resources for you. So if you check out in the tabs where you see the chat and the Q&A, you'll also see a new section called Docs. If you click on that, it should take you to a link, and the link is going to take you directly to this doc. It's a ClickUp doc, of course. And here we've got sort of an overview of tons of resources for you. So for ClickUp Dev, for the solution that I'm going to demonstrate today, we've actually got links to those templates. You can use those templates starting today. So it's kind of like a preview of those templates before it hits GA. We've also got an FAQ in here. We've got a newly updated ClickUp Dev and Whiteboards courses that we're going to be publishing as soon as those features hit GA. And then we've also got an area here for product feedback. So if you've got feature questions or feature requests, definitely take a look at Canny, see if there's somebody who's already requested that feature, and upvote that feature or submit your own requests here. Our product team does actually look at this, and we do develop based directly on your feedback. And then finally, I do have a link here for the Help Center. So if you've got any questions about anything outside of ClickUp Dev or Whiteboards today, definitely take a look at the link here. You can hit up our Help Center team, and they'll help you out. All right, so with that, I wanted to get started and talk about the ClickUp Dev solution. ClickUp Dev is a new solution that's just been designed by our solution engineering team, which gives you a single place where your development team can come together to plan and execute on their work. This is going to be your centralized hub for development teams. We've got a pre-configured Agile solution here, which enables seamless adoption of popular Agile methodologies. We've got support for both Scrum and Kanban, and you'll find the solution is both flexible yet opinionated. So if you've got multiple teams that are running multiple sprints simultaneously, each of those teams can run the sprint in the way that they'd like to. Alternatively, if you've got some teams using Scrum or sprints, and you've got other teams that are using Kanban, any team that wants to run an Agile methodology can run that methodology in ClickUp. And you'll find that the solution is nicely opinionated. So usually the solutions in ClickUp are pretty open-ended. ClickUp is very much a sandbox. But in this solution, we are pointing you towards and providing you best practices for managing your Agile projects. So I wanted to start off by talking a little bit about some of the new functionality that you'll find in these solutions. So you'll notice that the templates now include relationships, work in progress limits. We've included task types in templates. We've also got pinned folder templates, which I'll be showing you when I demonstrate the solution. But just be aware, those pinned folder templates are exactly what you can get access to in the resources document. And in this solution, you'll find that the stories are linked to their corresponding epics through relationships, and you can now save those relationships in your templates as well. You'll also notice that we've got new list icons to make navigation much easier. We've incorporated dashboards using dashboards as a view, which we covered in a previous Feature Fest session. You now have the ability also to filter out empty locations in Gantt, which we know was a feature request. And we've got customizable location overviews. So you can turn those location overviews into exactly what you need. All right, so let's go ahead and walk through the process of getting started. Just a reminder, this is a preview of the solution, and all of the folders that I'm using today, you can get access to in the templates that we're providing. So let me go ahead and jump over to my workspace. And here you'll see that I have the ability, when I go and open up my hierarchy, to add a new space. And when I do add that new space, let's just call this Dev Team 2. I have the ability to use this ClickUp Dev solution. So I'm going to go ahead and click here, and I'm going to go ahead and choose Build with ClickUp Dev. And here you may be prompted to choose the different methodology that you like. For today, I'm going to go ahead and stick with Scrum. And then you'll see that the ClickUp Dev solution is going to load, and we've got this brand new loading bar letting you know when the solution is ready for you to use. Okay, there's going to be some cool things that you're going to be noticing right away here. So first of all, you can see we've got those list icons that we called out. Also, you can see even though you're loading a template, the task types have been retained here, the relationships have been retained, and we've got these new Add Epic button and this Add to Sprint button. If you have the space solution available, when I go to add new folders, these are the folder templates that I was talking about earlier, so you can very quickly and easily add a brand new Scrum team or another Kanban team. And again, these two folder templates are exactly what you get access to in the resources that I've posted. So let's go ahead and add a Scrum team just as an example. When you do add a new Scrum team, you're going to be asked to update some of the sprint settings. So a couple really cool things here. You now have the ability to actually name your sprint folders. So if you had multiple teams running sprints and those teams had different names, or you wanted a way to identify those teams, you can now do so by naming that team or naming that folder. You also have the ability to name your specific sprints. So if you don't call them sprints, maybe you call them time boxes, maybe you call them iterations, you have the ability to customize whatever you name the sprint. So let's just call this Team Scrum. Here you'll see you have the ability to choose your measure of effort. You can choose when your sprint start day will be, the duration in weeks for your sprints. And then let's go ahead and check out some of our additional sprint settings here. So as mentioned, you have the ability to actually now name your sprint. So again, if you called these iterations or time boxes, you'd have the ability to do so. You also have the ability here to add a template. So if you already had a pre-configured sprint template that you had saved and you wanted to reuse, you now have the ability to utilize one of those templates. And then here you have the ability to choose, again, the duration in weeks, the date format, the time zone, the sprint start day, the start time. If you wanted to include non-working days, you can include those here. And you can lock the forecast for each sprint for the start day and the start time, and automatically create a dashboard view for each sprint. Going back to our automation settings, this is also a new automation I just wanted to call out. So if you've ever had to deal with, you've run multiple sprints and now those sprints are starting to clutter up your hierarchy, you can tell the sprint folder to auto archive your sprints after however many sprints you'd like to auto archive. So it will only show the most recent number of sprints that you want to keep available. So let's just go ahead and click done here. And now you can see I've added another sprint team to my dev team. So now let's actually walk through a live run through of running a sprint. So we'll start in the backlog here. You'll see that we've got our stories. Again, each story has the task type already applied. If I wanted to add a story to a particular epic or link it to an epic, you'll notice that we have the add epic button here, and I can very easily map this story to an epic. We also now have the ability to bulk assign relationships to your tasks. So you could bulk assign the epics to any of these stories if you needed to. Also, you notice we've got this add to sprint button. If I click this button, it's going to automatically add this item or this story to the current sprint. So let's add a couple of these to our sprint. You'll also notice that for pull requests, if I were to click on the pull requests here, we can choose for GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket, and this is actually going to trigger the integration of one of those external platforms. So let's head over into our sprint next. So in our sprint here, now you can see we've got our different stories. We've got our statuses at the top here. And if we wanted to add additional items from the backlog, I can use the add from backlog tile here. You'll see it's going to pull up all of the items in my current backlog. I could actually use the add to sprints button here to add this item to my current sprint. I also have the ability to add assignees by clicking on the add assignees tile. So here it's going to highlight any of our stories that don't have any assignees yet. So let's go ahead and add some assignees. And as I'm adding the assignees to these stories, you'll see that they're no longer showing because the assignees have already been added. And then finally, we also have the ability to add estimates. So if I had an item in my sprint where the estimate hadn't been added yet, I can click here. It's going to filter specifically for that. I can then quickly and easily add that estimate to make sure that all the important details of the work is now captured in order to successfully deliver on the sprint. Moving up to the folder view, you'll see that we now have this wonderful bookmarks card where I can quickly link to any location or resources that I want my teammates to have access to. We've also got some really opinionated card choices here. So we've got your active story points by assignee. We've got your current sprint burn down, so you can see how your sprint tasks are burning down. We've got priority bugs, block tasks, how many tasks you've got overdue. We've got a card for our cycle time. We've got our team progress summary. And we've got our sprint velocity. So that's really everything that I wanted to show you with regard to our newly updated sprint solution. So now I would like to open things up for a few minutes for Q&A. Our team is here. We're going to be answering questions live. And for any common questions or questions that we think are going to be of particular interest to the audience, we'll actually pull those questions out at the end and answer them live while walking through the solution we just demonstrated. Also wanted to remind you that you can get early access to what I just showed by using the template links in the posted resources document. And as a reminder, that resources document is in your tabs where you see the chat and the Q&A. Next, let's take a look at Whiteboards 3.0. So our vision for Whiteboards has always been to make your whiteboards the fastest way for your teams to visually collaborate on solutions and directly connect your ideas to your work. Well, now we've given whiteboards an incredible overhaul, and they are way faster, way more responsive. There's tons of new functionality, and I'm going to try and walk you through some of that today. So first of all, just jumping over into the whiteboard, what you'll notice is they're much faster, they're much more responsive than they used to be. adding things like shapes and drawing on the whiteboard is so much smoother of an experience than it used to be. You can edit the connectors here as well, much more easily. So here you can see I can change the connectors around. It's just a completely updated and upgraded experience. And if there's anything that you don't like, you'll notice that we've got the eraser tool, which allows you to very quickly and easily select anything that you don't want on the screen and get rid of it. So just jumping into a couple of our updates. Shapes. You've got tons of new shapes that you can play around with. If I add a shape, it's much easier to type any text that I'd like to into that shape and edit that shape. You'll notice that if I want to navigate my whiteboard, that's a much easier experience as well. Here, I'm going to go ahead and pull up what we call our mini map. So if you wanted to go to a particular area of a whiteboard, if you had a number of different maybe slides or ideas or frames that you've added to this whiteboard, it's super easy now to navigate, resize, and work with. And there's a couple of other really cool tools that we've got here as well. So along with the mini map, which allows you to sort of drag and drop your way around the whiteboard, we also have the ability to follow people. So if you're working with other teammates, all you have to do is click on their name in the upper right-hand corner here. It's going to take you exactly to their cursor and where they're working or what they're looking at on the whiteboard. Along with that, we've got other collaboration tools that we've just built in. So we have the ability to do comments, similar to what you might see in a FigJam. So you can quickly and easily highlight things that you want to talk through. And I wanted to show you that we also have the ability to fully embed docs and tasks. So this is really cool. Let me go ahead and zoom in to the doc over here. You'll see that this doc is a real doc that our team is actually able to come in here, update the text. You can actually work within any of the docs that you drop into the whiteboard. Finally, you still have the ability to convert items to tasks. So if I wanted to convert this shape, let's say to a new task, all I have to do is click the plus task button, convert it to a task, and that converts that item directly into a task. And again, we've now got much better connectors. They're much smoother, easier to work with and manipulate. And speaking of manipulation, we also now have the ability to do things like rotate and resize much more easily and much more smoothly. Finally, I wanted to talk about some really big updates that have come to whiteboards. So whiteboards are now locationless, meaning that you do not have to add your whiteboard as a view. You're going to have a whiteboards hub, and you can add a whiteboard anywhere or link to a whiteboard anywhere. Again, we've got the ability to embed both your tasks and your docs. And I wanted to show you something really cool, which is if you have some text that you'd like to visualize, all you need to do is highlight that text, click on the visualize button, and if you've got ClickUp AI, it's going to automatically generate an image for you based on the text that you had selected. All right, so I did want to talk through some potential best practices that you can now incorporate into your whiteboards. So if you wanted to host a collaborative meeting, you can use things like the mini map to find exactly where your team is working. You can do things like copy a link to an object. You can actually share that link with your teammates, and it'll take them directly to that object within the whiteboard. Again, you always have the ability to generate tasks from your shapes or your objects. You have the ability to drop docs into whiteboards. If you ever need to reference them, and you now have the ability to export your whiteboard canvas to share with others in a PNG, SVG, or PDG. And you don't just have to export the entire canvas, but you also have the ability to create frames. So here you can see for the F key, I can create a frame, and then I can choose to export that specific frame for my teammates. Other ideas you might want to incorporate into your whiteboards would be for things like creating interactive or engaging presentations. Again, you can use the follow me by clicking on whoever's presenting to follow them across the whiteboard. If you've got quick comments that you want to add, you can just hit the / command and add your comments in here. You can click frames to make frames of reference. Also, when you do create frames, it is going to group those items so you can easily move them around and reorder them. And finally, if AI is enabled, you'll have that ability to create AI images almost instantly based off of any text that you add to the whiteboard. Finally, I wanted to show you something really cool, and that's this concept of locationless whiteboards. And this is really where we think you're going to start connecting your ideas to your action, or just a way for you to share ideas much more quickly than you could previously. So let's just say that I'm working on a task with a teammate, and I wanted to share an idea. Well, maybe that idea is too difficult to share via typing out, or maybe it's just something that I want to visualize for them. Now, all I need to do is use my / commands in my comment here. I can choose to create a whiteboard. It's going to instantly generate that whiteboard. I can draw my idea. Reference tasks, reference docs, whatever I need to do. And when I close this, I can go ahead and click send and share that idea pretty much instantly with my team members. So again, it's that whole concept of moving ideas to action. When I have ideas that I want to share right away, having more features and channels that makes it easy for you to do. All right, so I know that was a ton to show you right away. Again, we're really excited about this new Whiteboards update. It is a complete redesign from what you've seen in the past. I'm sure you've got tons of questions about our whiteboards. So let's go ahead and do some Q&A for the next few minutes. And again, for any of those questions that have come through multiple times or that we think might be popular, I'm going to go ahead and answer those questions live and demo in the platform. All right, so I saw a ton of comments come through. By the way, your comments are amazing, everybody. This is the best community I've ever been a part of. I saw a ton of comments about both ClickUp Dev and Whiteboards and questions come through. I'm going to do my best to answer as many as I can. I think let's start with ClickUp Dev, just because that's what I showed first. So, and actually, maybe just like a clarifying question. We had a couple of people just ask, like, what's a sprint, or is this only for IT? And so let me just jump over to our ClickUp Dev solution here. And the answer is a sprint is really just the idea of you're time boxing work. You're taking work that you know that, or that you estimate that you can get done in a particular period of time. Typically, it's like 1 or 2, or could even be 4 weeks. And you're time boxing that work, and you're saying, okay, in these 2 weeks, we are going to get these specific items done. You're assigning those items to your team members. And then your team members are delivering on those items, or you're delivering on those items within that specific time frame. And then at the end of the time frame, you can do a retro and just decide, okay, how much of this sprint did we actually get done? Did we get everything in our sprint completed? And so that's what your sprint is. You're taking all of your items from your backlog, which is where all of your sort of ideas and action items, everything that you want to get done. You're prioritizing that, organizing that into your sprint, assigning that out to your teammates, and then your team is delivering on that sprint in that given time. And so the whole idea here is that with this newly updated sprint solution, we're just trying to make sprints so much easier and more approachable. And that's the second part of that answer I wanted to give, where someone was asking, are sprints only for software teams? So yeah, they're definitely used primarily by software teams, but they're not just for software teams. They're for anybody. And this is this idea here that even if you're in marketing or content development, like my team, we actually work in sprints. We use the sprints in ClickUp, and it's a really effective and efficient way to work. So just something to kind of give some people some ideas about with regard to sprints. Now, I know that we did have some questions about epics. How do you do bulk assign? Because those are some updates that came to the platform. So just heading back to our backlog, just remember that your backlog is where all of your work actually sits. So that's where the entirety of your work is sitting. If you wanted to link this work to an epic in bulk, you can hit the selector on the left-hand side here. You'll notice that just like with Gmail or other features, if I hold Shift and click, it's going to select everything within the items that I was selecting. And then we have the bulk action toolbar pop up. It might pop up in the bottom or the top, depending on where you're clicking. And then you'll notice that now we have these additional items that you can use bulk action for. So definitely don't sleep on the more button here. There's so much you can do with bulk actions that you might not realize. And here is where you'll have the ability to now bulk update relationships. So if you want to add relationships to your tasks, you'll notice that I can click on the relationships button here. I've already got my epics as relationships, so I can just choose the epics, and then I can choose the epic that I want these items to actually be connected to. And you'll see that that's going to update right here. The other really cool thing that we've got here is grouping. So you can now also group by relationship. So if you wanted to see everything that was in a particular epic, this is going to be a little bit more towards the software team. But if you wanted to see everything that was in a particular epic, you can actually group by epic now, and you can see all your items based off of those epics. All right, just looking through a couple more questions. Just demonstrating add to sprint again. So add to sprint, it's gotten so much easier than it used to be. It's literally just the add to sprint button. I click here, boom, it's added to my current sprint, which is going to be the sprint that we're currently acting on, currently working in the current week, basically. And then, yeah, I did have a few people that wrote in about getting access to this. So we are going to be releasing this officially a little bit later, but for you all, we've got a preview. So if you're interested in working in a sprint folder, in one of these newly updated sprint folders with all of these features included, we've actually included that in the Feature Fest docs. So if you see the docs tab in the upper right-hand corner where your chat and Q&A are, you'll notice that if you click there, you'll get a link to this ClickUp doc. The first page in this doc is a ClickUp Dev templates page. This is where you can get immediate access to that ClickUp Dev solution. So really excited to be able to share that with you today. All right, let's move on. I know we've only got a few minutes left. Let's move on to whiteboards. I had a couple of technical questions I want to answer, and then maybe something else, a few other items that came up. So jumping back over to my whiteboards here, we had a question about stylus support. So that's really cool. Our stylus is going to be supported in the new whiteboards? So yes, this is actually a complete rebuild of whiteboards. Styluses are now supported, so you can actually draw in the whiteboard with a stylus if you want to do that. Just be aware that the mobile version of whiteboards will be coming in the near future. So if you're planning on doing that on like an iPad or something like that, that will be coming in the near future. Another question was about text editing. Do you still have rich text formatting? So the answer to that is actually that we've reduced the amount of text formatting that you have in whiteboards. It's one of the reasons why the whiteboards got so much speedier than they used to be. And I will say that the speed that we gained on the whiteboards is definitely worth the update. So here you do still have the ability to change text size. You'll notice that we've got 4 different text types that you can choose. And then the ability to add, different items to your paragraphing, and also just the size and coloring of that text. But also, if I highlight a text box, something that's really cool is I can very quickly and easily now update the size of that text box, which will in turn update the size of that text, which is pretty cool. And it happens so much more smoothly and faster than it used to. Let's see. We did get a couple questions. Okay, last question. I know we got questions about templates in whiteboards. So your previous whiteboards are not going to be updated to 3.0 just because these are completely different builds of whiteboards. But our team is actually rebuilding all of the templates that were available to you for whiteboards 2.0. So you will have access to those templates in the near future. All right, and then there was questions about additional tools. I know we got 1 minute left. Yeah, just be aware, it's so much faster. Just adding anything that I want to add to the whiteboard, building things like our like flowcharts and processes. It's an overall amazing improvement to what we used to have. So anyway, I think we'll cut it here. I know we're at time. I did just want to take a moment and say thank you so much for joining. This community, honestly, is the best. You all, I love seeing the comments. I love seeing the GIFs. All the questions that came through, really appreciate your insight. And yeah, really looking forward to also our next episode of Feature Fest. So in that episode, we will definitely be talking about chat. I know that's a hot topic. So looking forward to seeing you all in the near future. Thanks again for joining, and thanks for your time.